traitor Judas Iscariot himself, were from the land of Galilee. Judas Iscariot, though, came from the town of Kerioth, which is in southern Judea. Now, back then, there are some things that we need to know about that land of Galilee, and the reason why some people looked at it quite negative. The Galileans were different, and they were set apart from their southern Judean brothers. Even though the Galileans were Jews, they were considered by their southern Judean brothers to be rural and backwards, lacking in truth and culture. Frankly speaking, my friends, the southern Judeans consider the northern brothers as a bunch of hillbilly rednecks. And that is the truth. That is how they saw them. And for the religious elite within Jerusalem, their view on the Galileans were even lower than that. They viewed them to be quite ungodly, and some of the extremely prejudiced religious elite within Jerusalem considered them not to be true Jews at all. Then, my friends, when we think of this point, isn't it interesting that God's Son, Jesus Christ, chose to make these men his apostles? That Christ chose to spend large lengths of his ministry on these people and in this area, and that the Lord of glory chose to live his formative years in Galilee, in the small rural town of Nazareth. Let no one judge you, my friends, because you live in a certain area or with certain people of a certain family. The only judge, as we know, that we need to worry about is the Lord, and he likes us country folk quite a lot. The other fact that I would like to share with you is that even though the Galileans spoke the same language as the Judeans, mainly Aramaic, sometimes a little Greek, and in a religious setting a little Hebrew, they spoke it with a noticeable accent. If you want to learn more about this, there are various videos on YouTube which go in length about this, but their accents were enough that Peter, during the time that Christ was tried, was noticed by the different people around there as being a Galilean because of his accent. And because of his accent, they figured that he was with Jesus at that time. Now, Peter, trying to save his neck and most likely his life, denied it 3 times. But as the truth was revealed, and as the cock crowed, the shame of his actions haunted him, probably for all of his days. Now, ultimately, the Lord did forgive Peter, because the Lord is loving and compassionate. But I'm sure that the decision that Peter chose to do that day did haunt him. Now, Thomas's other name was Didymus, which is Greek for twin. We read this in John chapter 11, verse 16. The scriptures do not say who his twin was. And through the Gospel of John, we can form a clear picture of his personality. He was devoted to our Lord. After all, he was the disciple who did say, "Let us also go that we may die with him." But despite his devout nature, and despite his great love for Christ, he was also naturally despondent. He believed without hope, and he was inclined to let his mind dwell on the darker things of life. And when we hear this today, our hearts perhaps feel somewhat sad for these sort of people. But when we reflect more deeply, we can see a lot of parallels within us. All of us, my friends, from time to time, dwell on the darker things of life. Sometimes all of us, from time to time, experience very negative thoughts, which become stumbling blocks for us, for our religious faith, for our relationship with Jesus Christ. Thomas was no different. However, Thomas was famous because he lived throughout the ages in the Scriptures. So then, because of all this, the natural question would be, what did the Lord see in Thomas to choose him as one of his apostles?